So today we're going to take a look at DRX versus Optic on Fracture, and the reason I wanted to take a look at this is to wonder how DRX managed to destroy what I think most people had as the best Fracture team in the world in Optic, and well, it was very, very impressive, and we're going to start off with a very, very impressive round, and this is kind of what makes DRX sometimes quite frustrating, and you'll see it in this round, because when they play at the level they did on this map of Fracture, they can beat anyone, and I mean anyone on any map if they play at this level. The problem is it's not always there, particularly when the pressure ramps up. You know, they seem to lose a bit of that magic. But let's just take a look at this, and this is an absurd round, and I don't think any other team other than DRX could have pulled off this round, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. So for DRX, this round is actually just going to be a stack up towards this B site. As you can see, they're going to just go up the staircase. But what's going to be so impressive about what DRX did in really the whole course of this game is they often actually, even though they destroyed Optic in this map, they often lost the first kill, which is what they're going to do right here. And they were in a lot of 4v5s. So you see they try and flash Ye off the angle there, but this is something that I think Ye is just way better at than anyone else in terms of just turning a flash while scoped in with an op and then managing to turn quick enough to find the kill again. This is something he's absurd at. But what DRX are about to do, I think, is one of the most impressive things I think I've ever seen. And I don't think any other team would be able to do this, right? Because what's going to happen is, yes, they've popped the KO ult, right? Smoke comes in here from Marv, though, just before that goes off and the pulse hits him. But now, here's the thing. They are going to execute this strategy now with Stacks going in and essentially being the duelist. Obviously, he's playing the KO, kind of, you know, the next person in, or should be. But they're going to layer the timings perfectly. Within like a second, they have worked all of this out as a team to layer all of these, you know, different things that they're doing to work perfectly with the timing of Stacks rather than RB. Obviously, RB on the Neon, you know, he can go zooming in, right? And they would have practiced, obviously, with RB being alive and, you know, zooming in and all the timings based off that. But the timing of this is going to be perfect, as you'll see. So this Fade Haunt comes in here, right? And they see it, the smokes come down. Flash comes in from Stacks, but now Zest waits for Stacks to be right here, right? To then send in the Fatal. But that isn't, you know, necessarily the most impressive part. I think another team might be able to do this. What I'm particularly impressed by is Mako, because Mako doesn't pop the Brim ult at the same time. He's going to pop the Brim ult just a hair bit later because he needs to wait for Stacks to be able to come up here before he pops it. And obviously Stacks, not playing a duelist, he isn't going to be able to get to here all that fast. This is the kind of level of DRX where it is just absolutely insane they can manage to work all of this stuff out in such a short space of time, right? Because you'll see that Stacks, as he starts coming in onto the site, the Brim ult gets popped as soon as he is now ready to take this fight and swing around this corner as the Brim ult is you know, coming towards tower here and is going to push anyone out of it. This is the kind of thing, that slight delay from Mako, I cannot tell you how good that is. You know, and this would have been without preparation, right? Why would you prepare for this execute when your Neon is dead, right? You would expect that your Neon to still be alive and that RB is going to be the one swinging on this, and the timing would be different because RB would be playing Neon rather than doing it for a KO. This is absolutely absurd that they were able to do this, and it leads to this where Stack swings around this corner, crashes in trouble, he has to try and get out, and they get the first kill as he swings around the corner. He perfectly times it and manages to get a trade back, and essentially we end up in a 4v4 again. That level of coordination, to do that in such a short space of time after RB had just died, is absurd, like literally absurd. And I don't think any other team could accomplish that at all, right? And just the slight micro changes. From there, we actually get this instance where Zest is going to Prowler out and see that Victor is here. Victor obviously sees Zest as well, and so what they decide to do is breach ult Zest there, and Zest obviously is in a bit of a problem. The thing is, though, that Mako has been able to, he's going to be able to avoid this Brim ult coming, breach ult, sorry, coming in there, and so this smoke is also going to fade at the worst possible time, where he's going to be able to kill both of these players as the smoke fades. You'll see that happen. So Zest obviously is kind of screwed and dies there, but you'll see that Mako is going to pick off both FNS and then Ye as well from this position as he's not stunned by the breach ult. But what's going to happen is actually Mako then gets hit by the Brim ult and cannot escape the Brim ult. So we're going to end up in a 2v2. The problem is for Optic, though, is they don't know where these players really are. Obviously, they do know where Neon and probably Marv are as well. So Stacks is able to kill Victor there coming in onto the site. Marv is able to trade it out, but now we end up in a 1v1 where Marv doesn't know where Buzz is and Buzz does know where Marv is, so it's obviously a bit of a difficult situation. You see that Buzz is able to win that fight. And now let's come to the very next round, and it's going to be the same thing in this one where they lose the first kill again. But what we're going to see this time is some of RB's movement just being kind of absurd, even if he doesn't manage to get kills with it himself. So we've seen FNS is going to send the breach on there that has caught RB, but you saw that flash come over the top here that blinds FNS. They get the wall. They're trying to punish FNS with RB early on, but because that stun caught him, they're not quite able to do that, and FNS is able to retreat. Whilst that's going on, we actually have Marv and Ye here both together. They don't quite realize that Ye is here yet, I don't think, and so he's actually able to kill Stacks right there. And again, as I said, we end up in a 5v4 for a brief while, but Zest is able to find Marv there as Ye TPs away. But here comes RB, right? And he's not actually going to get a kill, but he basically makes it so that he lives for so long that Mako is able to catch up with him and just trade these kills and find some easy frags of his own, whilst RB is just absolutely dancing around, sliding around, creating a panic for everyone else, right? Mako's been able to come here and find Ye there, and then also mop up on FNS, and then manage to reset for Victor as well, and get 3 kills right there, just because RB is just so crazy with some of his movement. Mako does the right thing, retreats to his teammate because he has the spike, and we end up with Crashies in a 1v3, and whilst they swing this angle, they're eventually going to find him, and Buzz finds the final kill there, and we get another round for DRX. But whilst DRX were playing very well, Optic also had some rounds where, to be honest, they were throwing, and this is definitely one of those rounds, round number 7. And I'm actually just going to run the start of this round a bit quicker, because actually Optic are going to find themselves up into a 3v5 position before I go and talk about what's really going on. So you see Ye gets the first kill there, and then Victor's been able to sneak underneath that B site and get himself into this kind of weird off angle right here. And so Mako turns around the corner again, and he manages to find that kill as well. And so we end up in this position here. We're in a 5v3, and this is kind of where I think the misplays start from Optic, that once they get into a 5v3, really this position by Marved, I know he is Marved, but and so, you know, he's feeling confident, but really if we're talking about, you know, what is the correct play to make, holding an angle like this, even though it is a weird angle, he opens himself up to potentially losing this fight and making it a 4v3 kind of needlessly, and you know, potentially costing Optic the round. What would be much better, and what I would, you know, advise you guys to do in your games is, if you find yourself in this situation, 5v3 or something like that, everyone really should be playing safe, and everyone should be tucking into safe little corners where, you know, you can just jump peek, jiggle peek, you know, always be safe, let them plant the spike, all of that kind of stuff. That will serve you much better than, you know, trying to hold angles like this, because even though Marved is actually going to get a kill, this kind of, you know, let's continue to hold really aggressive angles is going to, you know, consistently play throughout this Optic round, and it's going to end up costing them the round. They are going to lose a 2v5 here because they consistently want to just hold angles aggressively and show that they are the better players, even though they're 6-0 down. And so that's going to happen, as Marv actually does manage to escape here. But as I said, these two players now, after they escape, have a choice, right? They can either, again, retreat here towards spawn and play safe, or they can do what they're going to do, which is sit on site right here and play the aggressive angles and try and take those fights. And guess how that goes for them? Well, you already know how it goes for them, because they're going to lose this round. So yeah, instead of playing it safe, which is definitely what you should do in this instance, for whatever reason, they decide to just take one-on-one fights, right? Like that. And they lose that one, for instance. So now you end up in a 2v4 instead. And again, now you've got like 2 on each side, right, which is absolutely fine. Marved again, after surviving that first one, should have just ran in towards spawn. Now he's in a very difficult position all of a sudden, isn't he? Now he doesn't know really what to do. He smoked this off, but he doesn't know that someone isn't there. He doesn't know that someone might come here, and someone also might come here. So he doesn't know which way to look, again, because he decided to stay on site rather than just running away. And again, this is how you lose these kind of situations. You lose them because of that, right? They even missed the fade horn. But again, Marved, as I said, he was looking this way. He just turned at like the worst moment possible, and he dies to Buzz there, as he's just looked away from where Buzz was coming from, because he doesn't know which way to look, because he put himself in a bad scenario. We end up in a 2v3. All of a sudden, it becomes very winnable for DRX, and again, this is how you throw a 2v5, right? And then the same thing is going to happen here with both Crashies and Ye, where they're going to put themselves in angles where they don't know which angle to actually look at here, right? Because the time is going to tick. DRX are going to wait for a second. So you see, yeah, already you can tell he doesn't know which way to look, right? He just looked at tower. Now he's worried about this. And then you're going to see him and Crashies just constantly looking back and forth between the angle towards the stairs, tower, this. And they don't know which one to look at, right? Because DRX could come from any of the three. What they really should have been doing is just holding one of them consistently, particularly with the op, right? Rather than, kind of guessing between which one and hoping to catch the right timing. You see Crashies doing the exact same thing, right? He's looking here, he's looking there, he doesn't know which way to really look at, he's moving around. Yeah, he eventually does miss that shot, and then he's gonna die, and then Crashies is gonna do the exact same thing, where he's now gonna die as well. They take 1v1 fights, they lose them, and we end up in this situation where FNS, all of a sudden, from a 5v2 is now in a 1v2, because basically all of his team decided that they didn't want to win this round. And so this was particularly poor from Optic, right? And Buzz is eventually gonna find that final kill. But I think that this kind of round, it just goes as like kind of teaching tool for you, right? That in these situations when you have an advantage like a 5v3, play safe. You should win a 5v3. If you just play safe, in fact, you will win a 5v3 unless your opponent goes absolutely nuts and has the absolute round of their life. Now let's come to round number 10, where again we're going to see some of the just layers that DRX have in their coordination, and some of the ideas that they have are pretty absurd. We're going to see again another A main battle here. We get the same stun and the same flash that we saw earlier. We get the same neon wall as well, and they try and get this aggressive play. This time Victor, though, he's decided he's had enough. He wants to go try and make a hero play. Probably not advised in this situation when you're possibly running into 3 or 4 players, which he is, and so yeah, he ends up dying. Not a real shock there. And then again we get Buzz's RB's movement, sorry, on this neon, because look at this, as even though he's not going to be able to find the kill, right, you can't kill both, and so Marv does manage to get RB, but he's always going to be traded there. But now what they're about to do next is just absurd, right? Because watch this flash from Stacks just there that pops through the door, and then just as they do that flash, they pop this Brimalt here, knowing that anyone flashed by this is going to run this way and not really realize that they're running straight into the Brimalt. So you can see FNS completely blind, runs straight into the Brimalt and dies as well. Again, this is the level of DRX that when they are playing at their best, they are just kind of unstoppable. And then, we end up in a 2v4 and can run this just a bit quicker because, of course, it's very difficult to win the situation from here, and DRX do the right thing. They basically don't show themselves until they have to, and they just, play off each other's contact and just completely wait as the KO knife comes in. It does C2, but look, they're just not moving at all until the time is too late, and DRX managed to win that round as well. Now let's come to round number 12, and this probably wasn't the best Optic moment ever, because they're just going to try and push Victor here, but just basically do it off one breach stun and hope that that is enough. But as you can see, he's running into 3 players, and DRX themselves are going to go pretty quick as well. They're going to send a Fade Horn in here, they're going to send a Flash out here early as well, and so you're going to see it's not going to go great for Victor here as he runs into the DRX stack. You see he gets flashed, you see he has really no idea what's going on and what he's running into, and so he dies there. But what you're about to see is truly absurd. So Mako has a lineup from down here to get his Brim Molly into tower. That KO nade is also going to go into tower. The Fatal is also going to manage to hit FNS as well, and that's going to allow RB to come all the way around behind. How he manages to live in this situation, FNS, he does really well, actually. As you see, he gets hit by that. There's a KO nade there. There's a Brim Molly the other side. He has nowhere to go. He gets hit by the Prowler, so they know he's in there. The stun does slightly miss from RB, but he comes running in. But FNS turns at the right time and manages to find that 1 kill, but I mean, he's not ready for this either, because he still can't hear, don't forget. He's hit by the Fatal, he can't hear anything either, and he just got absolutely bombarded with utility. We end up in this 4v3. We get 2 players trying to come on the flank fast in Crashies and Marv there, but Tess just swings out and manages to actually find Crashies as there's a bit of miscoordination between him and Marv, as you can see. Then he goes in and just tries to make a hero play down in a 2v4, completely understandable, but Mako's able to trade out as he kills Stacks, and then they're eventually going to see Marv here. As you're going to see, Mako sees him, pings it out, and Buzz with the chamber ult is able to find Marv as well, and that was 11-1 for DRX on the attacking side. And now to finish, let's come to the defensive pistol round, because again, this is something that I think DRX do better than anyone else, and is the reason why teams like Paper Rex struggle with a team like DRX, or even Optic, have had lost some maps to DRX like this one, and I think it's because they have discipline. They have more discipline than any other team. And you'll see that in this round, because Buzz is going to win them this round with just a tiny little decision. And, you know, most of you probably won't be able to recognize it straight away, because what happens here is actually Optic have, you know, grouped up and gone to A outside of Yay, and actually DRX have decided to push Arcade and have actually come underneath. Now, Optic get the site, they flash Buzz off the angle, he TPs away. That's not the decision I'm talking about. And they're actually going to catch Yay off guard here, as you see, as they're coming underneath. They manage to kill him there, and they end up in a 5v4. But the decision that's going to win them this round is what Buzz is doing now. Because I have seen in this tournament plenty of times, and plenty of good teams. I mean, Fnatic versus Leviathan on Fracture kept getting caught out by this a ton. Is that when you're in a 4v5 as a team, you want to take a risk. You want to take a risk to try and even it up. And Optic are a very good team at doing this. They get in these situations but manage to win them quite often. And the reason is because they realize they need to do that, and they're pretty good at coming up with plans on the fly at doing that, right? So that's what they're going to try and do here, and they're going to be like, okay, well, let's push spawn, right? You've seen the chamber TP, or you've heard the chamber TP. You probably know it's in spawn. You know, Ye here has seen that there's quite a few people shooting at him there, so he knows, okay, there's probably a stack here, and this chamber is probably left alone. It's quite a common thing to do, to be honest. So they're going to try and push this chamber, and it's a good plan. But Buzz deciding, you know, he gets into this position here, and he starts spying with the classic, and a lot of people would have stayed there, right? But this is what I love, is what you're going to see is, as Victor is deciding to push here, he just starts jiggle peeking the angle, and just is willing to retreat, right? And that decision right there, of what he just did, where he's jiggling this angle, he sees Victor there, and then just runs away, that wins them the round. And you might not think it would, but it takes all danger of the round is now gone, because he lived in that scenario and he didn't let Victor push in any deeper. Because think about this. If he decides to stay and fight and dies, Victor actually, they like to make him a raid boss on these rounds, so he actually has a frenzy and shield, so it is likely that he would win that fight close up with a frenzy against a chamber with shields. You know, it's possible he wins that fight. If Buzz dies there, all of a sudden Stack's in a terrible situation, right, where potentially he could get pushed from two sides. And then if Stacks dies as well, because he's getting pushed from two sides, all of a sudden you're in a 3v4 where you're only coming from one direction. And all of a sudden Optic can now decide to, you know, set up crossfires where maybe Marv comes back on the top of the site here, and then, you know, they just do a little crossfire coming from both ways, and they make it very difficult for them to get out of this choke point here and defuse the spike, right? This could have been an easily losable round had Buzz not taken this decision to retreat. And this is something that DRX, this is why they beat PaperX, right? Because PaperX do these kind of things a lot, but, you know, they are the team that is willing to always make the right choice and be willing to retreat when it is necessary, when they're in advantageous situations. And you see that it is going to win them this round, because what's going to happen is now that Optic haven't been able to push this and gain any space, now they end up trapped. You know, now they end up in a really terrible scenario where, you know, both FNS and Victor here are going to end up kind of in a sandwich, right, between these two sides. And now they're the ones that have a massive problem, right? Instead of Stacks being in that bad situation, now they're in a bad situation. And you see they don't know which way to look. They end up dying. We end up in a 2-for-1. We end up in a 4v2. And now this is, you know, pretty much unwinnable on a pistol when you're in a 4v2. And you're going to see that they come running into the smoke. Maybe Marv is hoping to get one, but Mako finds the right timing on him, and then they find Crashies as well coming up towards Dish. Really, really nice from DRX, and again, just one decision like that decision to retreat, that can win you a round, or at least increase the chances of winning a round by a lot. And that is something that I think even some of the best teams struggle with a lot, but DRX in this instance, and DRX in general, are normally very good at it.